Shut the fuck up. You're a fucking cunt. Shut the fuck up. You're a stupid cunt. Suck my dick.
Greetings, it's your boy, Discount Off-Brand Males and Trya, and today, we're going to be invading female-only safe spaces. Hooray. Everybody knows, of course, that when someone on the internet says you're not allowed into a group, it magically becomes invisible to anyone they don't like. Definitely not public for all people to see. Surely, no one is then allowed to comment on your insane behavior. Nothing brings my heart more joy than exposing hypocrisy and various kinds of silly behavior. Have you ever heard of r/FemaleDatingAdvice? It's basically a place for female incels, Femcels. It's a place where women tend to have a toxic idea of relationships, dating, and men. Nothing exemplifies this more than the fact that they call men scrotes. Most of the women there completely don't realize how they're setting women back, yawns. While FDS's advice can seem appealing at first, underneath is a socially conservative approach that's often deeply critical of women and their behaviors, placing limits on how they can act and what they ought to seek from a relationship. Obviously, they do the same to men. Worse yet, in recent months, FemaleDatingAdvice has received some fire for banning trans women multiple times. The whole subreddit is generally pretty transphobic. Overall, any places that want to be exclusive to only one group of people are going to tend to be very biased and toxic, at least for the most part. That's why being inclusive, or at least balanced, measured, and unbiased, is so important. Really quick before continuing, I want to stop and thank Machiretsu and Juno for their incredible support and love over on my Ko-fi. Thank you for enabling my sociopathic tendencies. I will be sure to return the favor someday when I spare your lives after I finally figure out how to properly end this hell pit we collectively call the world. But in all seriousness, a heartfelt and genuine thank you to both of you. I now have a Patreon, which you can join to gain access to the Patreon section of my Discord server. My Discord server was literally made today, so it's far from done, but it's still ready to start accepting some members. The link will be in the description. I decided to scroll through the top section for this past month because I wanted to see what gets the highest number of points awarded on the subreddit. Initially, I was pleasantly surprised. The number one post was about a woman walking out on her date after he made a rather disgusting remark about her body. He said, "Now there's a body that would make my ex-wife cry." Which I agree is uncomfortable, awkward, and far too objectifying to say ever, much less to a person you just met. All the other posts followed the same vein, and so, I thought, hey, maybe the women here are far less sociopathic than I thought. So instead, I decided to look at the most recent posts. And that's when my anus proceeded to retreat so far up my rectal cavity that it created a point of singularity from the pure, sheer compression and ended the world. Good thing God, had a backup saved. Scrote douses woman in acid for rejecting his advances and giving her life-threatening injuries. This is why you can't be friends with men, there's too much at stake. This is a horrible event, no doubt, but please stop acting like every single man is going to do this. This is a rare and horrific thing that happens, not a common behavior for men. Pathology is not the norm. Just because I saw a woman recently shot a man in the face with a shotgun in the news doesn't mean I'm going to believe that I can't be friends with women, because all women could do that to me. I don't have that much significant brain damage from the cringe just yet. One of the biggest problems is this one magical term they use. High-value men, or HVM. This is a man who is financially, emotionally, and physically stable or generally well off in all of these areas. The problem with this is that most of the women here are uncompromising when it comes to these characteristics, which leads to unrealistic ideas of what people generally are. Worst of all, someone can be an HVM, but secretly incredibly toxic, especially because people tend to use all of those qualities to hide their true personalities. I'm not even going to mention all the times they play pseudo-psychologist with explaining why those qualities are critical in the first place. It's totally not like a poor and generally physically underperforming person can actually have an incredible personality and a heart of gold, right? Well, that's not what the women here are looking for, ladies and gentlemen. They want a true, proper, alpha, male. None of that Sigma bullshit. For example, take this question that was asked. What is FDS' stance on dating someone who's lost a relative recently? Assuming a man is generally a HVM but temporarily emotionally unstable following a loss. Is the FDS' recommendation to just steer clear? First of all, steering clear of someone you want to date just because they're going through a loss is a giant sign that you are not an empathetic person and possibly aren't really ready to date. I cannot believe I have to say this, but if someone you are interested in is currently grieving, why the hell are you asking if you should be steering clear of them? Is it just me, or is that incredibly weird? A HVM will not be dating during such a big life event. A HVM knows it's time to focus on his mental and emotional health, and will do so in a constructive way involving self-care, which may or may not include counseling. He's not going to date because he recognizes he's not in the right headspace to do so. You see this odd black and white thinking. God forbid a guy wants to date to keep up the relationship with someone they've been seeing while going through loss, or might just want their significant other's support and a fun time. Maybe dating is something he knows he can handle despite grief, or he cares about the person enough to badly want to date them despite the grief. Whatever, you get my point. A man should not pay all of the bills. Ladies, fire away. I actually know this person because we went to school together. This type of man is not to be taken seriously or even be considered to date. He doesn't deserve children, sex, affection, etc. He deserves nothing. He wants his life to be easy, which is why he's making a PSA. Oh, you won't pay all the house bills and fund my lifestyle, WTF, you deserve the abyss. How absolutely batshit is it to impose your own moral standards on someone to such a point where you think they literally don't deserve love just because they have a different opinion about how relationships should work? Me personally, I think everyone is different, but I've seen a fair share of traditionalists who think women should exclusively be financially supported, and they generally end up being very difficult people, but it's not the same with everybody. I personally think that it is very often a bygone and toxic system that imposes unfair rules on both parties, but again, for some people it does work. People need room to breathe and grow. Men being the sole financial supporters of an entire family leads to incredibly ruthless toxic situations, and women being expected to sit at home and take care of all housework often does the same. There's no right answer ultimately, and everyone is different. Respect what people feel they want, especially if evidence shows it is a healthy system. Behold, in true low-life form, there it is. The main creators and contributors of child poverty, generational poverty, and constant financial instability. So you're saying that if a man can't support you, he's to blame for all the world's financial problems? Sounds like you can't accept responsibility, or rather, you can't accept the idea that something has a deep and multifaceted cause, because it's much easier to blame men for not working hard enough and paying your bills. Okay, boohoo, you don't want to be an adult, we get it, but what on God's green earth makes you think you deserve a GF or a wife if you can't even afford to pay your own bills? What is the point? Oh yeah, to take advantage of her and use her as a stepping stone to get ahead in life. He wants her to fill in the gaps and make up for his laziness. Typical entitled scrote. I can practically feel the spit flying off your face and hitting me. He never said anything about not paying his own bills. Where did you get that from? I genuinely hope you're not projecting, but with your first sentence about blaming all men for literally every bad financial situation ever, I have an odd feeling that you want a man who will be your stepping stone to get ahead in life, because you want men to provide all finances for you, while simultaneously believing money to be one of the most important things ever. What is incredibly amusing is that this is the next thread I see. Truth bomb time. I cannot stand being asked, only by men, if I work. There is so much difference between being asked do you work versus being asked what do you do. I'm also 54, and that for most Americans is still the age to be in the career world. I just find it odd how this question has come up recently quite a lot, and I suspect ageism. I mean, it could be the Great Resignation, but I have my doubts and suspicions. I've found over the years that the only people who ask me if I work are traditional conservative men. I highly suspect that the rest of that question is left unspoken, since actually voicing it would mark them as traditional and conservative. The full question is, do you work, or are you a housewife? So, do you want a guy to pay all the bills while you are a housewife, and anyone who doesn't conform to that belief doesn't deserve love, or do you want to work and pay bills? Or did you just want to work and hoard all the money to yourself? I don't understand the insane amount of double standards and logical crisscrossing people in this subreddit end up doing. I've been seeing several males complaining across the internet about how women don't approach them, and they think women should approach them more. Let me tell you why this is a horrible idea. I genuinely feel like men don't respect women who approach them at all. And I also feel like men who are genuinely interested in a woman will go out of his way to pursue her, period. If you find yourself having to initiate literally everything with a man all the time, that means he's not that interested, and you should 100% move on. Also, these men aren't being 100% honest either. They claim that they want women to approach them more, and yet they think those women are desperate and low value, and they also feel like the reason why those women have to approach men in the first place is because they are unattractive and don't have many options. I've had friends approach men, and even I used to approach men in the past, before I knew any better lol, and it always felt like I was putting in way more work than the male, and always felt like I had to beg for his attention. The men that I've approached in the past don't put in nearly as much effort as the men that approach me, and I also find that the males that I had to approach in the past were very passive and feminine. Now that I think about it, I cringe just thinking about how I used to act like that in the past, and I'm just so happy that I know better now. Good lord. That it. Okay, so I'm reading through some of your comments and I see a couple of you stating that men can still turn out to be narcissistic and whatnot. I'm aware of that. However, that's really not the point of this particular post. Nowhere in my post did I say that all men who approach you first are automatically a godsend. They definitely still need to be vetted, but I feel like some of you are being obtuse on purpose because you're guilty of participating in these pick-me behaviors. The main point of my post is that women should not approach men in a romantic sense, because you're always going to be the one putting in more effort than him, and you basically are gonna end up wearing the pants in that situationship. If you would like to make a separate post about narcissistic males, then feel free to do that. I'm not denying it. However, I'm not understanding why some of you are coming under my post completing changing the subject. Pick me behavior. Ha ha ha. Why is it always these women limiting and setting borders for other women? Like, there are plenty of people who will very much respect someone with the guts and confidence to go up to them and ask them out. Being the initiator doesn't have to imply anything about the woman who initiates. It doesn't mean anything about how the rest of the relationship will go. But it may mean that you are interested in the guy, and he may be a little less interested in you at first. I think you just can't deal with the potential risk that you might end up being more attracted to him than he is to you, and you end up being unable to handle the signs that he's a little less interested. Think about how men feel when they have to deal with that. Why do men have to have the confidence to approach women, but poor little women can't handle approaching men and start kindling the fire, according to you, of course. Also, attributing feminine behavior to men just because they were passive about you is frankly incredibly insulting to both genders. These women tend to insult men's masculinities without realizing that by extension, they're actually severely putting women down. This also encourages men to be much more over-the-top masculine, resulting in toxic behavior. I just want to say, I appreciate all of the women out there who aren't like this so much. Anyway, this is a giant generalization, and it's an attempt to garner sympathy for how butthurt you are over the fact that some guys just aren't that into you, but still let you approach them and gave you a chance. Sucks, doesn't it? All I can say is, cope. Here is a response in the same vein. Yeah, no, tried that. Chazed my ex and begged him for a relationship. Gave him everything and tried so hard to fit to every part of his lifestyle. Left my pride in the dirt begging him for attention and tried communicating. That got me dumped like a stranger on the street and probably cheated on. Never again. There is no reward for chazzing a man except utter humiliation and mental anguish. Seems like if you're begging, you're the idiot here. This doesn't mean women shouldn't put effort into asking a man out. This means you were begging. There's a major difference I think you're missing. Now you've gone into extremes and decided that whatever you think will hurt your feelings less is the only valid option. Men are the ones who have oppressed us all throughout history. Men are the ones who need to pay up for past wrongdoings. Men are the ones who need to step up to the plate. As women, we do not need to prove we are serious about feminism by paying 50/50ths for our meals, or by not wearing lipstick, or whatever rules there are for being a true feminist. The onus is on men to prove themselves. As a woman, I should not need to prove to a man that feminism is a serious issue any more than a person of color should have to prove to a white person that racism is a serious issue. So whenever you are feeling down or guilty about being a bad feminist, just remember that it's not on you to prove your worth. It's men's responsibility to show that they take feminism seriously. Oh boys, looks like we need to apologize for our forefathers' wrongdoings. Never mind the fact that history is something we have no influence nor control over, you are responsible. That was sarcasm, by the way. Understand that the 50/50th thing you just mentioned is an unrelated issue, and it just sounds like you're salty that someone dared to ask you to pay half the tab because they prefer a financially equal input relationship. No one needs to prove anything to you, just like you don't need to prove anything either. I am so sick of self-proclaimed male feminists invading spaces in real life and online that are specifically for women. The presence of one man, no matter how much they believe they're one of the good ones, defeats the purpose, even if they stay silent. I think that's why so many men get enraged by this sub. We make it clear that they are not wanted here and will not be tolerated here, and they hate that. Incidentally, it's one of the reasons I absolutely love this place. If you post anywhere else on Reddit or online TBH that even remotely criticizes men or one-man TBH, the topic will inevitably and rapidly be derailed by angry men telling me that actually women are also the problem, and here's why you're a bitch. I have left women's clubs, groups, etc. because I showed up with the expectation that it would be a women's club, but alas, men had consistently invaded those spaces. One even tried to run for an officer position. All of them thought that being there meant they were super fuckable. Obviously they came across as incredible unfuckable, 0-10, and completely insufferable. Like, it's not enough that they have to trespass, but they also expect to be rewarded for doing so. It's condescending, infantilizing, and it irritates me to no end. The essential appeal of safe spaces for women is that no men are there. We all have a lot to discuss regarding men, and frankly, men 100% cannot participate if we're going to get anything done. Men cannot handle what we have to say about their behavior, and I can't speak freely knowing there's a chance some annoying and aggressive dude invades my space to mansplain women's issues to me. Obviously that's also by design, but I'm so sick of the arrogance, entitlement, and invasion. Leave us alone. To any angry lurkers, every single man is a threat to women, yes, even you, so stay away from where you're not wanted. God forbid anyone else wants to participate in the conversation and share their point of view. Have you ever considered the fact that maybe you get booed out of groups or have to leave them because you're incredibly hateful towards men while simultaneously being unaccepting of any criticism yourself, going as far as to say that every single man is a threat to women, despite the fact that, generally, man-on-man crime is actually statistically more common than man-on-woman crime? I understand the sentiment of wanting a group for just one type of person or one type of gender, but then you get disgusting, unaccepting, black and white cesspits like incel forums or the subreddit. People have a right to criticize your cruel behavior, just as much as you have a right to spout off hateful crap about a gender. Geez, that one is a really earful. Commenters, feel free to dissect this one below in the comments. Oh yeah, and don't hit me with that. This is what happens when men are allowed in women's spaces. They find a way to derail the topic to make it about them. People care about equality and hope that you will understand something from their perspectives. There have been plenty of times where men have been talking about women, and women jump in to talk about how they see things. It's not fair to just bully someone and emotionally manipulate them into not fighting back. That's what you just did. Ugh, this drives me crazy. I wish women would stop caving to the poor men's feelings when they add those edits. It never fails that not all men pops up in the comments under posts like that. Well, I would expect that if a guy is complaining about all women being a certain way, women would comment something about how he shouldn't think all women are like that. It's common sense to correct something ridiculous. We don't want people who will generalize an entire gender like that. It could be really damaging to people. When I think about peace sites and how normalized it's become, here's what I come to. Imagine there was a website where you could watch videos of men being choked, slapped, hit, punched, abused, etc. A site where you could find tons of gang fights with 5, 6, 7 men beating up one guy, all while laughing and spitting in his face. Somewhere with thousands of videos of older men strangling teenage boys and loving it. A site where you could search up different ethnicities of men and see them tortured. How long do you think that site would stay up for before it would be shut down for violation of civil rights? A site like that would be shut down quickly and the owner shamed and punished. This is how we know we don't have the same rights that men do. This just goes to show how removed these women are from what men can also actually go through. You know gay P is like that too, right? As in, gay P also has a lot of force and aggression elements to it. It really isn't just women. I would know, as a bi guy. It would be nice if you could take the time to stop and listen to men too, then you would know that the problem is the aggressors, not men in general. But also, what about people who are into that? Like, some people are masochists. Nope, I guess that doesn't matter, because it's all just systematic abuse and absolutely 100% non-consensual, and never ever okay. Here's what FDS thinks of OnlyFans. Correct. It is a ploy to benefit men and give them endless porn while destroying our lives. They don't see as future partners or worthy humans after they find out you've done porn. Yeah, it's totally not like people enter into OnlyFans consensually and are paid for their work. This is infantilizing sex workers, treating them as if they aren't aware of what they're doing. God forbid if there are women who genuinely enjoy sex work. It's all just a ploy by evil men, of course. Honestly, I also don't understand why people on this Reddit devalue sex work as real work. All work you do, whether that's YouTube or OnlyFans, is work. It requires work, input, constant effort, and care. If you want to debate the morality of it, frankly, I'm in no position to discuss it. It's too complicated for me to know just yet. I'd have to do a lot more research. But frankly, sex sells, and if there are people happy to sell sex and genuinely enjoy that job, then they are the ones making that choice. Women are just as responsible for their actions as men are. It's not just some evil crazy plan created by men. There are people who actively participate and contribute that are not men. In fact, it's based on those people for the most part. That's all I have from r/female dating advice for now. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Tell me what you think about some of what these women think. I think I'll do Reddit content every once in a while, because it's fun to go through crazy subs like these. Thank you for watching, goodbye.